Hi, my name is Paul Halpern. I'm one of the two founders of Whiteaker Printmakers here in Eugene, Oregon. We're located in the historic Cox Cannery building at about 2nd and Polk. Whiteaker Printmakers was established in 2015. We are currently a nonprofit, member-supported fine art printmaking studio. We have members who come and do all sorts of different types of printmaking, anywhere from screen printing all the way up to lithography, etching, relief printing on woodblock or lino cut. And this is our studio, which we are going to talk about today. So we have two main things that we do here at whitprint is, first of all, we have membership. People can come join our group. It's a monthly fee that you pay here. The amount you pay sort of depends on how long you commit to. We currently have about 20 members, and members do get 24/7 access to the facilities, all the tools and equipment that we have, and we do provide some materials in the way of inks primarily, and we provide some materials that members can purchase from us at our cost, such as copper plate, paper that they would use in their own art. Besides membership, we also offer workshops periodically. We have tried historically to do at least one workshop a month, and then there was this thing called the pandemic, kind of messed everything up. We did do a good recovery this past year. Right now we sort of are on hiatus until we get through the holidays. But workshops are a way for anybody, whether they're new to printmaking or have been at it for a while, they can come along, sign up for a workshop. We bring in instructors from around the area. So we get a lot of different disciplines. It could be letterpress, it could be etching, it could be screen printing. One of our most recent ones was an unusual technique called mokulito, which is a form of lithography using a wood block instead of a stone. So workshops are always good to look for in our offerings. And everything about this that I'm saying you can find on our website at whitprint.com. So in addition, we also do a number of other events periodically. One of the big ones we do, which people may have heard about, but it's called Big Ink. Every 2 years, there's a couple of people who come out from the East Coast, and they do this all around the country, where they invite artists in a particular area, or anywhere really, to carve a very large relief block out of a sheet of plywood. They come for a weekend here at the studio, and everybody gets to make their prints off of their block. It's a really fun event. It happens every 2 years, so if you hear about Big Ink, definitely you're going to want to come to that. The other thing that's going on right now is we have an annual event called Emerald Print Exchange, and this is where we basically do a call to printmakers around the world. It's international, and right now, I don't remember how many countries are involved this year, but we received prints from 171 different artists. Each artist sends in an edition of 12 prints. We collect all of these, we sort them all out randomly, and each artist then receives 10 prints from other people in the entire group. That's the exchange part of the print exchange. The other 2 prints are held on to, we keep them between us, Whitprint, and another organization, another nonprofit called Print Arts Northwest up in Portland, and we use those to facilitate our own fundraising. And right now our set is on display at the Maud Kearns Art Center here in Eugene. And we manage sales of those prints actually through our own website in a process called, it's our online reverse auction fundraiser, which is a lot of words, but basically what it means is you can get online, you see a print you like, if it's still available, you can buy it at the current price, but if you wait a while, the price will come down, but somebody else might buy it first. So you really want to buy it right away. Also, just as another note, our studio director and co-founder, Heather Halpern, who's an amazingly accomplished printmaker and artist in many ways, has an exhibit up at Cafe Soraya now through the end of October. Many printmaking pieces as well as pastel paintings, and they have awfully good food at that place, so you want to go there.
Hi, my name is Heather Halpern. I am the co-founder and executive director here at Whiteaker Printmakers. So I am an instructor as well as a member here at Whiteaker Printmakers. So I'm going to be doing a couple demos for you and showing some example plates, blocks, and resulting prints. This is a monotype plate. It's plexiglass, beveled edges so it doesn't cut the printmaking paper or the felt, the printmaking press blankets as it's run through under pressure. And what I've done is taken a brayer, which is this tool right here, and I've rolled it through a slab of ink. This is an ink slab. And rolled that over the plexiglass to get black background. And then I wiped away using paint brushes, bristle brushes, Q-tips, and things to basically sculpt out an image from that dark background. So it's kind of emerging from the darkness. So there are lots of ways to create a monotype. This is just one. This is the reductive process. You can also do an additive method where you're applying ink with a paintbrush or different objects to create different textures and things. So this plate is just a quick rough sketch basically, but I'm going to go ahead and print that for you so you can see this image in reverse when it's printed on the paper. Okay, so this is a damp sheet of printmaking paper, and I'm just going to lay that over the plate. And it's a tight fit. I usually have bigger margins, but since I'm just doing a little proof here, it's going to be, forget that part, sorry. So now I'm going to run the printmaking paper with some newsprint over to protect our felts through the press. This is an etching press. So this provides a little bit of cushion to press the paper down onto that inked plate, and the damp paper helps absorb the ink from the plate. So here we are cranking through. You can feel a little more pressure as the roll hits the plate. And then I'm going to sneak through here, be on the other side, and so the pressure has eased up, so I know the plate's been released from the roll. Go ahead and pull the felts back from the protective newsprint, and you can actually see this image right through the printmaking paper. That was definitely damp, and some of it actually went right through to the newsprint. That's why we use it. So we're going to lift this, and here's the resulting print from that plate. You'll notice it's a mirror image, and the damp paper really causes that ink to be very saturated on that paper. Applying a lot more pressure for this technique. So it's a thin, much thinner plate, and the lines are actually etched into the plate, so if you want to start recording, I can explain effect.
Oh, I see the dog. There's a tennis ball, and there's the hand.
So Paul's about to lay some damp paper on the inked copper plate. The damp paper flexes down into the etched marks while it's under pressure and lifts the ink out, and the damp paper helps with the absorption. So protective sheets of newsprint so the ink doesn't press through onto our nice felts. So
Paul is the clean hands.
Yes, Paul is my clean hands.
Clean hand man.
Fantastic assistant.
Awesome.
Good for something around here.
Yeah, we're documenting this.
So you want to keep even,
Rotation rate.
yes, rotation rate. You don't want to leave one portion under pressure longer than another. You might get a black stripe where it's been through the roll longer than elsewhere. And then comes the big reveal. And I can see there's plenty of pressure. You can see the plate mark. You can see the ink actually absorbed into the paper at this point. there's the resulting print. Okay, so these are examples of embossing versus debossing. These are done on an etching press. As you can see, these were letters, wooden in this case, but you can use all kinds of objects to create that embossment with damp paper pressed over them. This is an example of pressure printing. So you can see this is actually right reading, whereas a lot of printmaking techniques, the plate is the opposite, the mirror image of the resulting print. So any thin, really thin object will make a change in the pressure, and it definitely shows up different saturation of ink. A lot of people are familiar with linocut, linoleum cutting, and that's where you use one of these gouging tools. It comes with different bits, so you can get sharp lines or shallow lines, different mark making. So. This is similar. This is an engraving resin. Traditionally they were done on wood, end grain wood, so you can get a lot of fine detail. And that uses a different type of tool called a burin or a graver. And it's a kind of a V-shaped tool. It just pushes the material out of the way as opposed to cutting it out. These are examples of dry point. So this is just a plastic styrene plate scratched with a dry point scribe. This is a twist tool. Sharp point, you can use a nail, anything to just draw your design in the plate and then push the ink into your marks. Use damp paper, wipe this clean, a lot like that etching demo I did earlier. This is another dry point, and this is just to show you the difference depending on the type of paper you're using. It's hard to see the image, but it's nice to do this on plexiglass because you can see through it. So if you have a sketch or a photograph you want to work from, you can place it right on top and trace it basically. And then of course your image is going to be the mirror image, and you can see on this very smooth paper you get a real crisp line, and on this soft paper you get more of a sketchy charcoal like mark. Here's another example of an etched copper plate and the resulting print. So this is line etch as well as aquatint. So line gives you the line work and the aquatint gives you the tone. And this is actually a stamp using some ground to block the etchant, using an actual rubber glove to get that mark. So sometimes I'll use a fingerprint, sometimes a leaf or feather, something to get some interesting textures in there. Burlap is really cool. This is a mezzotint plate. So this is a copper plate, and using a tool called a rocker, you chew up the surface so it's got a lot of texture, and that prints this solid velvety black. And then where you want your image to emerge from the darkness, you can scrape away using a scraper tool. And where you want the highlights, you can burnish, and that polishes the copper so the ink doesn't stick to it as well, so you get that image. You can use these two tools, the scraper and burnisher, for scraping away etched marks or aquatinted marks that you don't really want in the plate after all. It's kind of like erasing. These are collagraph prints. So this is again that plastic styrene. And this image was created with carborundum grit in gel medium and just brushed on, and then in this case scraped away. But you can get very painterly, atmospheric marks with this process. This is another example of collagraph. In this case it's styrene shaped, so it's cut into a form, and then gel medium applied to a silk ground. So the fabric is glued down to this plastic, and then when you print it, you push the ink in and wipe it clean, the ink sticks into that mesh. So you get the black, and where you want the lighter tones, you can brush on this gel medium with a little bit of white paint acrylic mixed in, so you can see where you've made your marks. And the more you build it up and the more slick it is, you filled in that tooth of the fabric, the ink will wipe off more easily, and so you can get some nice gradations of tone and even brilliant white. If I were to add even more smooth paint and gel to the surface, you get really nice highlights on that. And this is an example of a solar plate. So this is a photopolymer material on a steel-backed plate. And this is the transparency I used. I took a photo at Country Fair of a friend playing accordion, and then I used this to mask to block the UV light on our exposure table. And so where the light shone through, it hardened the polymer, and where the light was blocked, it stayed soft. And so then I rinsed away, and the ink only sticks to the part where my image was. So there is one other step where you use an aquatint screen to hold the tone, but that's a little too complicated. And this is the resulting print from that particular plate. So you have lots of options in printmaking to get a lot of different marks and imagery.
Okay, so to point to some of the highlights of the studio, right now we're looking at two of the etching presses. The larger one on the left is an Eugene 24 by 48 inch press, and the nice blue one with the cool wheel on it is a Griffin, about 18 by 36, give or take an inch or so. And as we move to the right, we have another small and large combination. Again, another Eugene on the right, same size as the first one, 24 by 48. And the small one on the left, I think it's called a Holbein, and it's 12 by 24. That's our baby press, which we sometimes take with us if we're doing an event somewhere out in public. And then over here is our pride and joy. This is a 48 by 96 inch press. It was handmade by a machinist in Portland named Ray Trail. The story with Ray is that his wife was a printmaker and said, "Hey, I want a press." And he said, "Okay, I'll make you one." And after that, he ended up making about 60 more for other artist friends and other printmakers around the region. So you will see these type of presses. It's not really a commercial thing, but they're around. And this, the 48 by 96, is one of, I think, 3 or 4 of the largest presses that he had built. We're really happy about this. This press came to us from Margaret Prentice, who is currently, Professor Emeritus. She was a printmaking instructor at University of Oregon for a long time. When she retired from there, she had it in her home studio. Eventually, she needed to downsize, and she sold it to Whiteaker Printmakers, and we've been happily using it. Earlier, we mentioned our every other year event called Big Ink, and this is, in fact, the press we use to print wood blocks up to the size of this bed, which is nearly 4 feet by 8 feet. So we're now in the letterpress room, and we have 2 large platen presses, they're called, which are very old. This one, I'm told, comes from 1890 or something like that. And they are basically used to set type, and you put the type in here and paper over here, and it all comes together, and you print. We have another one over here, slightly larger, which can take a larger set of type. And as a quick showing of lead type, this is a block of lead type that is used in this little frame to start putting together words or whatever you want to say. And the way this works is ink goes up on this disc here, and you can use a treadle at the bottom of this machine to keep this wheel spinning, which I won't do right now. These rollers come up onto the ink disc, pick up the ink, and when that's done, they're now going to come down, and in here is an area called the chase, which has all the lead type mounted in it, so it just got inked up by the rollers. And then on the next cycle through, we have paper on this side, which gets pressed into the lead type as more ink is put onto the roller. So this is actually a production system. So two plate and presses here, and we'll show you two small letter presses in the other room. Okay, and we have two more letter presses also in this room. These are smaller, 5x8 is the maximum chase size. Same idea, except it's hand operated. There's rollers down here that would come pick up ink, and then the whole thing comes together, clunk, and then you've got one impression made. So now we're looking at one of our two lithography presses. Lithography being a process that traditionally uses stone slabs on which you create an image, long complicated process, and you make impressions on paper from that stone slab. This one we acquired from a place in Portland where the printmaker of many, many years had passed on, and we were very fortunate to be able to take this down to our studio here in Eugene. And this is the smaller of our two lithography presses. This is the first one we brought in some time ago. Right now it has an extra riser on it, this big thick slab that you see in the foreground, because lithography you can also do a form called aluminum plate lithography, and the riser brings a thin aluminum plate up to the level in order to be printed. Okay, and we're now in the screen printing area. We have a number of these palettes that can be used by our members. A number of screens that belong to the studio that members can use, although most members seem to be bringing their own screens so they don't have to worry about clearing out the image after they're done. And back here is an exposure unit, which is used to help create an image, and ink, emulsion, all the stuff you need. And this is also used in screen printing. At the far end you see our washout area, which is basically an elevated shower stall. And possibly not in frame, we have a shelf full of inks to the right. We have safe lights, which is why we have unusual coloring in here. And that's what we do.
Okay, so the wooden blocks are called furniture, and they hold your block of type or your image, type high image, into your chase, which fits into the platen presses for printing. So this is the graining station where we remove an old image from a stone once we're done editioning the image, and so it's basically erasing the image so that you can draw a fresh image. Siphon off the water, and we keep the grit. We can use that for our collagraphs. And here we have a drawing on stone. This is the lithography process, and this is the resulting print.